Welcome to Indie Music Podcast, episode 323, Mixing with Your Eyes Closed. Indie Music Podcast has a Patreon. We invite you to come check it out. And there you can get some pre-release videos and extras for members only. So we invite you to come by, help support the channel. Thank you. This morning, Matt and I get together and have coffee and talk about getting the monitor out of the way, focusing on what you're hearing and using visual tools as an aid to what you're hearing rather than really having them be the predominant decision-making tool in your workflow. Enjoy the show. Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Doug.
How you doing?
Doing all right. How are you, man?
Dude, that is so punk.
You hear me all right?
I can hear you great.
I am using my Slate microphone today.
Let me see.
It's the ML1.
Yeah, couldn't quite see it, but trying to make it
No,
out.
I had it hanging overhead, but then it was like, that's just too intrusive. So
Okay.
I put it on a different arms. It's awkward because it's clearly not made to go on a boom stand because it's got like the cage shock mount.
Oh,
Which
right.
makes it really kind of awkward to have on an arm rather than a stand.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
So
I've
this
got
is like the third configuration I've tried to do. That's right.
Yeah, I've got one mic that has that. I can never remember the name of the cage type.
I just call it cage.
It's not coming to me. Starts with an L, but anyway, but it works really good on the boom. But it's really designed for to be on a regular mic stand, I think. So
yeah.
But do you like? Well, I mean, you got your sideways. A lot of people put them upside down. Other people put them right side up.
Well, it's the diaphragm is a circle, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, typically either people put them right side up or upside down. I had it upside down.
Yeah,
but
I think upside down has like a cool factor to it.
There is a cool factor to it. Well, and also the whole idea there is that you sing up to it, and so you get a little more.
I think if you had the mic upside down with that punk do you got going on today, it would like take it over the top, man.
Yeah. No, I do love the way this sounds.
It's a good sounding microphone. Sounds really good to me right now.
It's a good sounding microphone. It's heavy-ish. It's not as heavy as the Samson, which just made this arm just drop.
Oh,
but it's not a lightweight mic. It's a solid mic, but it goes into this proprietary shock mount that it sits in.
So you're kind of getting quite the mic locker.
These are all mics that I've had. I've had all these mics. I just haven't used them, so that's why I kind of use this as an excuse to kind of check them all out.
So you've got kind of quite the mic locker.
Yes, correct.
Is my signal hot?
No.
Okay.
You're hot. Your signal's not.
Thank you.
No, it sound normal.
Okay. Yeah, I try to because I don't change anything, man.
I know, and yet somehow things change, whether you want them to or not.
Have you had a good week?
You know what? It's been an interesting week. I have. This is kind of like a between projects week for me. I mean, I feel like June is always slow for me. I think because of school ending and graduations and people transitioning from school time to not school time. That's my theory anyway, why June is always kind of a little slow for me. Anyways, between projects, so I've been doing a lot of back-end stuff, a lot of website maintenance, SEO stuff. I just finished spending a couple days putting together this giant spreadsheet so I could update my Sound Exchange catalog, which apparently they had nothing on file for me, even though I already submitted all my stuff. It's just that kind of stuff, back-end stuff.
Gotcha.
Feels good to get that out of the way, but I have nothing visible to show for it. But it's stuff that's like that cruft that hangs out in the back of your mind. Oh, I got to do this someday. Anyway, I've been working on that. What about you? What have you been up to this week?
Well, I've got so much that going on that I can't talk about right now, which sucks.
Mm.
But it's been an exciting week. I repurposed a kind of it's not too old, but an older MacBook Pro for a business, because I'm tired of having everything in the studio computer. And, I mean, I just want to be able to work on the business anywhere,
Right.
and not have to come down and use the studio resources for estimates and invoices and things like that. So I set up a new computer. Also, of the things that I can't talk about, I'm just like, it's
That's exciting though.
I want to just like regurgitate everything that's going on. But anyway, a lot of exciting things happening right now, and some it's just a waiting game, and others it's just want to see and make sure that things actually come to fruition on. And
yeah, I have a few of those in the week.
Yeah,
I need to check on.
But hopefully there'll be some good news here, maybe by the end of the month, or
cool,
or the beginning of July or something like that.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I do know what you mean about the laptop. I'm glad that I work off a laptop, and that is one of the reasons, because I like to sit and watch a baseball game and do accounting or do website maintenance or that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to have to come out.
It just makes it easier, and so I mean I can still do it on the computer down here, although I do want to offload some things. A lot of what I do is web-based, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like I have a whole lot of applications. Considering maybe transitioning the podcast and all the post-production stuff for podcast video onto that machine. Maybe, and maybe doing Zoom on that instead, because then I have more options as to where I can, the view and how I want to set up.
Like this background of yours, though. This is it's a professional looking. I'm in the studio hanging out with my headphones on background.
I know. So, and I like it too. And, this is my view. Normally I get, I'm fortunate to, I like this atmosphere, it's a good place to work. And if you want to call it that. But anyway, so it sounds like, you're pulling things together, organization and stuff, and I'm trying to develop new things. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's good to have a little season of working on the business rather than in the business.
Yeah
because that stuff usually gets pushed to the back burner, and then at some point you're kind of like, all my websites need to be updated. I've been hacked.
Yeah,
you don't want that.
So our topic, I had spent some time just like in the evenings. I usually spend a little bit of time just kind of perusing YouTube, and I ran across a Michael Brower video, and I think it was, can't remember now. Might have been like United Audio or something like that.
He does a ton of interviews.
Yeah, and he was in there, someone else's studio, doing an interview, and he was talking about getting the computer monitor out from in front of you. And I think his point was like when you're at your mixer, that it's not in front of you, at that point. There's and to his point, he was saying that it's a distraction from your ears,
it is. Yeah.
And I just so I've liked him for such a long time, and I just so resonate with that, that idea, and and I've this is how I've set my studio up, and it wasn't really because Michael Brower said so. It's just that through because I used to have my monitor right in the middle when my studio was reconfigured the other way, and then I started out with it here, and I just, and it's a pain to move the computer for testing and stuff, but I did it And there was such a difference in my sound field without having the monitor in front of me in the sound
Right.
field, reflections, off the screen, right into my face,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And then there's to his point was um, the tendency to over rely on what you're seeing rather than hearing.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I totally get that. And I know you do too. And uh, spend a lot of time, um, well, for me, mastering with my eyes closed,
Mm-hmm.
and because I think that your other senses kind of heighten up, and it takes a
True.
little bit because it doesn't happen immediately. You kind of actually have to have your eyes closed for a period of time, and just listening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I found that like my hearing becomes more focused, acute, and centered on music. I can really um, pick out instrumentation and listen to individual
Mm-hmm.
parts, and really just get that focus. That when my eyes are open and I've got all the other stimulus going on, that I don't think I have that same level of focus. And
For sure.
and that's why I like to put my computer, my screen is off to my left here. And Michael Brower's point was, is just get it out from in front of you, put it off to the side,
Mm-hmm.
and I think for him, I don't think he was addressing that from the point of view of it being interference in the sound field. That's kind of my experience with it,
Right.
and measurable, because I,
Mm-hmm.
I I do the studio. I actually, so it's kind of hidden now, and it's not interfering with that stereo image, which is really important for the stuff that I'm listening for. But
Yeah. So Michael Brower, I think, I mean, he's been a very influential on me. I'm on my like third iteration of my mix template based on the way he routes his all of his different sounds
oh
and
yeah,
groups them. He's an interesting one to listen to, or to listen to take advice from, not because he's Michael Brower, but because he's kind of a bit of an iconoclast, kind of like he doesn't really care what anybody else does or how anybody else does anything. He does stuff his way, and it's unique, and it works for him. And he'll be the first to tell you that it works for him, and it's not necessarily going to work for you. And it's just stuff that he's developed. For me personally, I totally agree with mix with your ears, not with your eyes, and how easy it is to get like overstimulated by all of the bouncing meters and like thinking that you can hear something when you realize it's in bypass is the favorite thing that happens to everybody. But I don't have far fields, I only have near fields, so my monitor being in the center does not interfere with my sound field, but it is still a distraction. And whenever I'm trying to hear something specific, I will always look away and listen whenever I'm trying to hear something specific or see if something made a change or how this is related to this. I do mix a lot visually, but then when I really want to hear it, I will either look away to see if this change is working, or I will literally spin my chair around, especially when I'm listening to the whole mix. I'll spin my chair around and listen to how it sounds in the room without looking at anything, just listening to the music.
hang tight a minute. I've had a system hang.
Uh-oh. You
Uh,
didn't freeze
it's
though.
it's just in my DAW.
Oh, is it affecting your recording?
I think so. Yes, sometimes we have this.
Sometimes we have technical difficulties.
I was just going to pull up a plugin here to talk about some visualization stuff.
Mm. And your DAW froze?
Yeah,
Is it still frozen?
yeah.
Oh, so you're only getting the Zoom audio now.
I think so.
Well, that sucks.
So,
but it's just the duh because you're the Zoom is still going.
Yeah, I guess I'm fairly certain that that's not recording. So we'll just go with Zoom audio the rest
That's cool. So you can just do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Your Zoom audio sounds good, so I think that won't be a problem.
Okay. I don't have the visualization that I to reference here that I wanted. But one of the things, that I also, with that said about mixing and mastering with your eyes closed, I think it's important to use the tools, the visual tools that you have, as a way to double check and reinforce, and qualify what you're hearing.
Right.
And so in that respect, those are good tools. I think I think the point is not to have over reliance on them, and to really it's about what you're hearing. It's about what other people are going to be hearing. No one else is ever going to see the visualization and metering and things like that you have.
That's such an important point, because you can look at it all you want, but in the end, somebody's going to go listen to this somewhere with no visuals associated with it whatsoever. They don't care that your thing was in the orange or even touching the red.
Yeah.
They're never going to know. If it sounds good, it sounds good.
Right? Yeah. And so the tools, and sometimes, it might be a visualization is showing you something you didn't catch. Mm-hmm. And other times it might be reinforcement of something that you did hear, you know what mm-hmm. I mean? And so it's a way to check something out in a different way, and to validate what you're hearing, and maybe to introduce what you're not. It looks like I continued recording.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I know that you keep adding hardware, and I know that you recently added VU meters to your setup. How has that changed any of your process or your workflow, or how do you use those differently than you use the metering in your DAW?
So VU meters are a representation of a closer representation of seeing something in a way that we actually hear it. Mm-hmm. And that's because VU meters have a slower response time than the digital meters. You have the actual throw of the meter dial. It's about 3 milliseconds or something like that, and then a delay of response, because it's it's an analog response. And the same thing on the downside. So what you actually see is more of an average that maybe represents more of an RMS type mm-hmm. of in an analog sense. And it's just another way of me looking at it. One thing is that I have it in my patch bay mm-hmm. so that I can patch point. It's really nice. So I can take my ADDA out, right off of that, because I'm using half normal in my patch bay.
Right.
And that means I can basically make a Y chord from any point. All right. So I can grab an output without affecting the signal chain and send it to the VU, and the VU is never in the actual signal path. It's just grabbing a copy, and I'm seeing what's happening at that particular point. And then I can move it over after the EQ if I want to, just mm-hmm. Grab the output of the EQ and run it into the VU. What changed after I did EQ processing? Am I am I seeing levels because of different frequency boosts that I might have made that are actually hotter than what I'd really like them to be? Right. A lot of it is what effect does this really have? It also lets me, if I see that I've got digital clipping coming back in, like at the very last stage, like in my limiter, mm-hmm. Then on the input of my limiter, if it's too hot, I can go back through my chain with the VU meter and find out where I might need to work on them on a level that's actually coming out at a certain point. So that's how I'm using them.
So are you saying that you don't have it in there all the time? You only use it to check changes? Or did I mishear you?
No, it's always in something.
Okay.
So right now it's I've got it on the 80 DA out before any
Hmm.
processing.
Yeah.
And so that's I'm just checking it at that point. I can put it at the very end of the chain,
Hmm.
and check that would be the same as my monitor output. So I can grab a
Right.
copy of what's actually going to my monitors and look at it at that point. Um, so it just depends. But I use it to check um, before and after
Hmm.
processing is mainly the way that I use it. So
You said something really interesting that I think could easily be missed, or people don't necessarily think about. I know we think of compression as being related to level. Like you compress something, it either makes it louder or it allows you to make it louder. But we don't often think of EQ um, as affecting levels. But what EQ really is localized volume control. So it's very important to check your levels after making, particularly if you're making um, big EQ changes. Anything over a couple of dB of change is going to affect your volume, your levels. So
oh yeah,
that's a very important
oftentimes
point.
I have to attenuate after after the EQ. Sometimes somewhere between 2 and 4 dB of
Yeah.
attenuation. Because I mean, yeah, it's you really need to keep an eye on that, because if you're seeing a hot signal coming in at the end of your chain, for me it's hardly ever compression that's causing that. And the reason that is because I go for unity on my compression. So as far as makeup gain is concerned,
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to have the in and out level
Be
as
the same.
close to the same as I can. That's the way I like to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I want to go for, I've got more headroom, and sometimes if I want to use that for a gain stage,
Hmm.
then that's available to me. But normally I'm running Unity on the compression. So
Well,
uh,
yeah, that makes sense for mastering because you want the level to be a completely separate operation than whatever compression you're doing, because that'll be either for tone shaping or control or something like that.
Yeah. Well, what you find is that the hotter your signal is coming into your limiter, the less headroom you have,
Right.
to work with it at that point in time. But then it
Right.
ends up being a balance, and you can I sort of work forward and backward and forward. And then, when I get, I'm doing gain staging, it's not the first thing I really do. It's kind of a setup and like a rough gain staging. But after I start adding in different processing, then I really get into gain management, and I'm working on that kind of through the process. So I always, do something and go look and what effect did that have down at the end.
Hmm.
Um, on the master bus, where am I at right now with gain? How much headroom can I get? How loud can I get this?
Yeah. Have we done an episode on gain staging? Because that's a really important topic. I don't think we should
No,
necessarily
I
go
don't.
all the way down the rabbit hole now, but that's something that, gosh, that's super important.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a good way to explain it, because it seems I don't really have a set process. It's just kind of I'm working, with what happens through the session. And so I have an initial setup, and here I've got what I think is going to be the headroom that I need when I set my initial levels with
Sure.
the mix that's been delivered to me. And then after that, it's do something, check it, tweak it, as far as gain staging is concerned. Where am I at now? What am I hearing? A, B, and there's just I'm just rolling through all
Yeah.
these things that I think I need, and I don't know that they're always the same.
Yeah. Well, you're
Uh,
only working with a 2 track. So gain staging for mastering is very different than gain staging for mixing.
yeah, but what I'm concerned with is the headroom that I have,
Hmm.
and um, not crushing dynamics. I really
Right.
don't like to crush dynamics. I mean, there's some genre, it's like, yeah, we want to crush it here,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but for the most part, that's not the majority of the material that I am currently working with anyway.
Hmm.
It's all, there's a lot of subtle, vocals and instrumental parts that all need to play together, and the dynamics is so important in letting that breathe. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
limiting is something I want to do really lightly. And, really, if there's something like a really strong snare transient throughout, I just want to kiss that. And just, you also have to be careful of with compression, that, when you have a really dynamic track like that, and maybe there's like one element that's really, hitting some higher amplitudes, of dynamics.
Like a big loud snare.
Yeah, well, you don't want to pump the entire track because the snare, you know what I mean? And so with compression and with limiting, that is going to kind of give you where your ceiling is, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all a good point. Do you ever, maybe this is more of a mixing thing, do you ever use soft clipping to round those peaks as opposed to limiting?
No.
Okay. Next question. We'll talk about that in a future gain staging compression level.
No, I work with normally like with gain, and then just like soft compression. Normally an aggressive compression setup might be like maybe a 6 dB threshold, with 2-to-1 compression, that with a maybe a fast attack and a medium release. And I mean, it's really easy with that. That may not sound like much, but
no, I can picture
you can actually, if you've got a strong transient, you can start getting subtle pumping into like the vocals and things like that, which becomes apparent, and something I've been working on a lot. It's hard to hear because it's subtle. Right. So really, I've just been kind of gravitating towards less is more in compression, and subtle. Subtle is so much better in most cases, other than the genres that need to be crushed.
Heavy metal, hip hop.
Yeah. Those are a different story. Now the hip hop is fun, but the thing is that with the low end, the low end's actually easier to work with on the pumping, because
you kind of want it to pump.
Yeah, because one, you want it to pump, and two, you can control it easier because I can send a low pass channel out to the side chain input of my compressor, and then set the low pass frequency adjustment on the compressor itself. So then I can actually kind of like control how much of that bass is actually going to be triggering the compressor,
Yeah, that's for the last several months, I've been, my go-to bus compressor has been a Slate SSL style bus compressor that has a built-in sidechain. So basically you put it on and you use that setting, and it basically ignores the lowest end, so it doesn't compress that. It just compresses everything else, and it sounds meatier. I like it.
Yeah, and that's a nice thing. So you don't get the low end compression, which is good, and then it also helps control the what frequency you actually want to trigger compression on. So that so that high pass or the low pass, I guess.
Low pass, high pass, low pass.
It's a high pass. Is the stuff that actually gets compressed. The low,
it's pretty well known that if you have too much low end energy, it's going to throw off it's going to really over affect any like bus compression or limiting, because there's just so much energy down there. And that's kind of a frequent issue with people who are, home mixing, home producing, and they don't have a good monitoring setup, and they're always adding more bass because they can't hear it. And that is an example actually where using visual metering is a good idea, because it's stuff that you can't actually hear, especially if you have maybe, you don't have full range headphones, or you don't have a good room response or full range speakers. You can't hear that stuff, so you have to rely on, there's a lot of energy down here at 30 hertz, which isn't being reproduced in my monitoring setup, but I can see it, so now I can get in there and work on that. So that's kind of the opposite of the trust your ears.
Yeah. Now in this studio, I'm able to reproduce really low, and lower than what I can hear. I think you've seen my
subwoofer,
my curves before, and
I've seen your curves.
You've seen my curves, baby. And I don't show everyone my curves, but I do.
I am blessed.
I'm just kidding. But I use feel for sub bass. And, as well as visual. So when you are able to reproduce it, you get the advantage of, can you feel it in your chest?
Dude, they have, and I haven't used it, but I've seen people use it in videos. It's like a backpack thing you put on, and it's basically like a subwoofer that you feel. It's so weird. I hear laughing already, but it's like, I know it's so nerdy. It's like a strap-on subwoofer thing that allows you to hear and allows you to feel that stuff that you can't see.
Hey listeners, if you use a strap-on, would you want to comment in the and tell us about?
We don't want to hear about your strap-on. That's a different podcast altogether. No, it looks like one of those Baby Bjorn things, but I don't know, or a camel pack, whatever those the bicyclers were, but it's for all that sub bass energy, and so that way you can. I guess if you're mixing a lot of hip hop, maybe that's a good thing to have. If you can't hear your stuff in your room, you don't have a subwoofer. But just saying that there are ways to reproduce that level of sound that you can feel. Oh, let's change the subject. Oh man, I'm usually the one that takes stuff there. I didn't expect you to take it there.
I think I want to end on that.
I think that's a good idea. Generally, visually metering is useful for certain things, but for the most part, you want to mix with your ears, not with your eyes. Double check with your eyes, but the ear is king.
Use all your senses.
Use all your senses when mixing.
Taste the music.
Taste the music. Smell the rainbow.
All right.
And A/B, so that you know what you're doing. I like it when you can level match. You'll have certain plugins that will allow you to level match, so that whatever is coming in is the same as what you're hearing, so that you can hear what's being changed, not just the volume changes, because often things sound better if they sound louder, and it may just be a level change and not an actual improvement.
If you're A/Bing at different levels, it's invalid. It's not working. It's not going to work. You have to A/B level matched.
Otherwise,
if you're using an A/B plugin that doesn't level match, get rid of it. It's hurting you more than it's helping you. So,
good advice. That's a nugget right there. Right.
Some of them, some of the iZotope plugins all have bypass, and that bypass automatically does level match. Which is really nice. That's one feature on iZotope stuff. I don't use it, but I used to.
Ozone has that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I use Metric A/B, and
Metric A/B also great for that.
Yeah, and it's got a lot more than just the A/B, but it's nice to be able. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's got a lot more than just A/Bing your, original to the to what you're hearing. There's A/B for all the visualizations as well. So and I find that often
overlay the curves of your reference track with what you're
and that's so useful to see what impact have I actually had in a certain frequency range.
Yeah.
And compare, to the original. That gives me some validation of the area that I was working in. It's like, oh yeah, that's so. And when you see that, you can see that it's not that you're attenuated all in one place. You've got a bandwidth of boost or attenuation,
Right.
which is affecting your gain. So you can actually visually see how the EQ actually makes a difference in loudness. So
yeah.
anyway, rabbit hole alert.
Use all your meters, but also look away from your meters.
We just don't know how to stop. We can't stop.
We can't stop. Man. We could do this all day. We could do this all day.
Yeah.
Anyway, but let's not do it all day. We got other stuff to do.
No, because listeners like things to be close to 30 minutes or less, and we're already over. So
we're right there.
Yep. All right,
thank
everybody.
you all for listening. Thanks
Thank
for tuning
so
in. Thanks for checking us out.
Thanks for watching.